Hi, everyone. Welcome to Novel Hour Live Gossip Edition. Okay. We gather every other Monday. So, not every Monday, every other Monday. And we kind of round up some of the things that are happening in the bookish world, in the bookish community. We'll also touch a bit on pop culture and whatever else is going on. So, if you have something you'd like us to discuss, leave it in the live chat. If you're watching the replay of this replay crew, we'd love to hear from you as well. So please leave your comments with any thoughts, feelings, or topics you might have. Now, it's the Monday after the Oscars, so let's just get into that first and foremost. So last night we had the Oscars, and we had quite a few book adaptations that were set to receive, a win, possibly, because we had lots of book-to-screen adaptations nominated. However, they just weren't really getting the win. So I'm just going to do a quick recap because I had covered some of the adaptations that were nominated. Now let's talk about the ones that won. Now, Emilia Perez had the most nominations of any book-to-screen adaptation. And I think, quite honestly, of any Oscar film for this year. They had a total of 13 nominations. They only won 2, however. So Best Supporting Actress went to Zoe Saldana, and Best Original Song. They also won for Best Original Song for El Mal. Now, word on the curb is that one of the cast members was hella problematic, and that probably contributed to them not winning as much. Because, 13 nominations, you only went home with 2? Okay. Let's get to Wicked real quick. We'll share thoughts at the end. Wicked took home 2 Academy Awards, one for Best Costume Design and one for Best Production Design. They had 10 nominations. Conclave won Best Adapted Screenplay. Now, Conclave had 8 total nominations. Then we had Dune had received, I think maybe 3 or 4, but they took home 2 wins for sure. At the Oscars, it's clear of another film by the name of Anora. I don't have that cover because, again, I was focusing on book-to-screen adaptations. They were the one who really, had a big sweep in terms of wins at the Oscars last night. We'll get into the performances and high points and things we liked. But just as it relates to the nominations and the wins, what are your thoughts? Francesca, how are you feeling about the book-to-screen adaptation?
I feel like it made sense that they didn't win as big. I think that there were also other bigger contenders. However, I do have to say that I did like how the Emilia Perez thing was addressed because there was a moment of call out in the presentation. So I was happy to see. And I was happy to see Zoe Saldana get an Oscar. So that I was happy with. So.
Yeah, I was happy for her too. It's been a minute for her, and I've been watching her for years.
Yeah.
Yes. Laura, what did you think?
I have to say, first of all, Zoe Saldana's best performance center stage. God bless that movie from 25 years ago. It still lives up to its hype, and you still have to watch it. So I love a Dominican winning an Oscar. Love it, and I love that everyone else was just ignored. Great.
Yeah.
Conclave should have won all the awards because I love Gossiping Cardinals. And I've been telling everyone to watch the movie. It is just delightful. I know there's going to be a conclave happening soon. I wanted to treat it like a reality TV show. I wanted to fashion the nuns, the service worker, the cardinals. Tell me what's going on, because this is like a reality TV show, trying to figure out who is going to be the Pope. Full of twists and turns. I actually am grateful that Nora won in some ways because it's dark romance girlies are living it up. This marriage in Vegas with some mafia involved, Nepo baby. But it just brings out the taste or difference. I know there was a big buzz about Demi Moore not winning the Oscar for The Substance, but she won the Golden Globe. It is okay. There's more time. But it's great.
Yeah. Also, I actually really like the fact that a young woman won the Oscar. We need to start that to be a trend. It cannot always be the older, more established actors. They've had their chance.
Yeah.
So give it up to new people.
But then I have to counter that because Demi has been nominated time and time again. Demi has done amazing performances. And I said to my husband last night, obviously, I am a sucker for Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. So obviously I was pulling for Wicked. Okay, I'll get more into something that they did. But I remember saying to him, I would hate if they split those two up, meaning Ariana won Best Supporting, but Cynthia didn't win Best. Or if Cynthia won Best, but Ariana didn't. So with that in mind, a lot of people are saying like Demi was a favorite to win because Demi has been waiting for her turn. So I'm just saying, I know you said like, give it to the younger folks, but what happens when you don't get it when you're younger and you keep going and you keep going? And my husband's point of view was, yeah, they might give it to her, meaning Demi Moore, because she's paid her due. But what happened to those women who are consistently overlooked? And I dare to bring it back to the Grammys and the fact that Beyonce just won Album of the Year after years. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It's true.
So I think Wicked, they're waiting for the next movie. It's part 2. They're not giving them the awards right now. They're like, we're going to wait till so it doesn't sweep 2 years in a row. And that's probably because it's voted by the Academy. So they're probably thinking, we don't want to, it's going to be a boring show if we have it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I agreed with that. I did say, look, if they gave it to Demi and just snubbed Wicked along the way with all the other nominations, then, they had another chance. I will say I was pulling for Demi because I'm like, it's been years. Yeah. But if you're just joining us, welcome. This is on Monday Live News, Gossip Sesh, just everything happening in the bookish space and the real world and pop culture and all these things. We like to keep it light and cute over here because, listen, the real world is wild out there.
Listen.
So if you're joining us, say hello in the comments, like Nikki. Hi, Nikki saying hello.
I think
Yes. Hey, so say hello to us in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. Also, let us know if you watch the Oscars, if you were pulling through for anyone. Again, the book to screen adaptations, lots of nominations, but not as many wins. I do want to get into the night though, because I personally love the opening with Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. So Ariana started with, what's the name of that song? Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Then they came in and they did their duet, Defying Gravity, which again, love down. How did you feel about these two and their performance?
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
One of the highlights of the show for sure.
Yes. And the touch of the ruby red slipper behind Ariana's dress is like a homage to Wizard of Oz. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I just really enjoyed it. The only other graphic I pulled from the Oscars, because this is something I personally enjoyed, okay? I know this is going to sound very corny. Y'all don't come to me. However, I am a Bond girly, okay? I am a Bond girly through and through. Ian Fleming through. And they had a special tribute to James Bond, specifically the producers and the people who have produced Bond over the years. So we had 3 performances. We had Lisa, Doja Cat, and Ray perform like 3 big songs that are just very iconic with Bond. We had Live and Let Die. That was done by Lisa. Doja Cat did Diamonds Are Forever, which, by the way, I thought she was great. And then Ray did Skyfall. Now, I have to be honest, when I realized they were doing like this rendition, I was like, they have to do Skyfall. Then I'm like, I wonder if they're going to do Adele. Is Adele going to pop up? And then I saw like some comment. I'm like, is that Adele? By the way, I was watching in my bed. I was way back. I jumped up and then I was like, oh, shoot, it's not Adele. But I was like, I should have recorded it because that was wild. Clearly, I was disappointed. I wanted Adele to be there, but I enjoyed the performance. Did you catch that? Did you?
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. Now, okay. One caveat though. I watched all of these like recaps and like snippets on TikTok because I don't watch the Oscars live. I got all of my goodies by watching like all the replays from all the TikTokers and influencers. And I'm like, I got it in like a half hour. Best way to do it.
I felt that it was a little too long for me. And I was like, okay, just get into the show. It's a really long show and it's like a freaking marathon. And we're in the East Coast, so it's really late. Even to start earlier this year, start 7 o'clock. It's still like pretty late. Like I just want to get to the big awards. Like I don't care about this. We don't have a James Bond movie going on right now. So why are we having this interlude for like 7 minutes? Give me some awards. Give me some tea. Show me some celebrities.
I get it. I appreciated their performance. Again, I know I said it at the top. Okay, I'm a Bond girly through and through. Ian Fleming. Forever loved it. My granny even has an Ian Fleming story. I'll tell you all that another day. Maybe if I cover James Bond and Ian Fleming. But yeah, I appreciated it. I just wanted Adele. Like, give me Adele. That's all the girl was asking for. By the way, if you're just joining us again, welcome. Let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. Drop a comment, say hello. Let us know if you watch the Oscars or not. Were you pulling for any of the book to screen adaptation? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And Nikki's chatting with us today. So Nikki says, I'm tuning in from Puerto Rico and I didn't tune in at all. LOL. I didn't watch any of the movies other than Wicked, and I loved Cynthia and Ariana's performance. Yes, hands down, these two, it was a great way to start the show. Okay, great way to start the show. I was living for the two of them. I kind of love seeing their relationship.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. Off the show, off the performance. I love how they have each other's back in a way, and they're always lifting each other up. So, yeah, I can appreciate it. It was a highlight for sure. If you have any Oscar thoughts, let us know in the live chat. Replay crew, if you're watching the replay of this, we haven't forgotten about you. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, so I have a notepad with things that we're covering. Okay, next up, you know what? Let's do the light thing, although it's not really light because we have two big things. Let's go to the Supreme Court, shall we?
Light reading.
Reading, nothing major. Let's go to the Supreme Court. So I've covered this on the channel. We've all talked about this individually on our respective channels. Book banning is a thing, okay? It is very real and it's out here in these streets and it looks like it might be heading to the Supreme Court. So now our sourcing is from the SCOTUS blog, and it's basically saying that it will get to the point where the Supreme Court may decide whether a group of Maryland parents can opt to have their children exempted from LGBTQ-themed storybooks. I don't see the date. But anyway, the justices mentioned that they had granted Mahmoud v. Taylor, in which a coalition of parents from Montgomery County in Maryland contend that requiring their children to participate in this kind of instruction violates their religious beliefs, violates their First Amendment and right to freely exercise their religion. If you all have heard about this, I mean, what are your thoughts? Francesca, how are you feeling about just the fact that, again, a different form of book banning, but, you know, the case probably going to the Supreme Court? What are your thoughts?
I'm concerned going to the Supreme Court because can't be trusted, but I just find that it's so weird. We were just talking this morning about how usually they want to refer to things not being in schools, and it's technically always revolving around like porn. Oh, well, I don't want porn. And the fact that if that's the driving usually force behind what they want to put out, and now they're really going and targeting LGBT stories where they're not at all anything to do with sexuality. It's just people just living their lives. Yeah. So, yeah,
What do you think, Laura?
I think it's important to note that Montgomery County is the county surrounding the DMV area, the DC, Washington, DC. It's actually where Bethesda, Silver Springs, Potomac,
Real Housewives.
that's where we're going on. It's a high end, like it's a wealthier county. So think about it, it's like so close to the federal government. So it is not it's not in the middle of America we're talking about. We're talking about Maryland, which is mostly a blue state. And we have this it's now seeing this thing. And it's about story hour. Like, it's like, what's the next thing that could happen? Like, children's book and story hours about LGBTQ issues is like, what else were we banning?
I'm going to be contrarian, okay? Because I love a balanced conversation. I get that certain things don't align with certain religious beliefs, especially as a person who went to church school, and everything for me growing up revolved around church. And I do think as individuals, we do have the right to decide the kinds of education we want our children to have. I think the problem is when it comes to what is enacted in public schools. Because see, me, I'm a church school girly through and through. I love a church school. So with that, I know a certain instruction is provided there. But with public schools, it's slightly different. And I don't think you can necessarily dictate, because it's like you go to school with people of different faiths in public school. So what might not work for you might not work for someone else. I do think you should have the option to elect. It's like sex education. Parents have to sign off on whether their children participate in certain things. If you don't want your child to participate, don't participate. But again, don't deny other people from having access to something that you necessarily don't agree with. It's like saying, I don't want my child to have pizza. Okay? Are we going to go ban pizza from the entire cafeteria? No. We teach our child, listen, pizza ain't good. Don't order no pizza. We don't eat pizza in this household. But if other kids want to eat the pizza, let them eat the pizza. You just don't. You pay for something else, or you provide your child with lunch. Okay, that's all.
I think it's interesting because we're getting into the nitty-gritty because peanut is banned because there's allergy issues. Like they're gonna say like, well, it's just the same thing. Like you're banning something that just because one kid doesn't work, it doesn't bend for everyone.
Yeah, but again, there's a reason I chose pizza. It's a personal preference. I could say the same thing for chicken. I could say the same thing for fish. Life and death is separate. An allergy, life and death. That is how I view it anyway. So if you have an allergy, you can possibly get seriously ill. You can possibly die. Where that is concerned, there is no if, but, nor maybe.
Yeah.
You cannot have that. But pizza, as far as I'm concerned, look, people can be allergic to cheese. People might be allergic to chicken or something. I'm just saying, when it comes to something universally accepted, something, mashed potatoes on the menu. Just because I don't want you eating mashed potatoes, I'm like eating rice in this household. Okay? Eliminate it from the cafeteria. You just don't order. I went to school with vegetarians. I sat down, I'm eating my meat, you're eating your veggies over there, and we are fine. We can have a keep that, and we are cool. I respect you, you respect me. I grew up with a whole bunch of Muslims, okay, in my neighborhood specifically, because I went to church school, so everybody there was Christian, but you have respect. I respect everyone. I believe what I believe, you believe what you believe, we are cool. And that is it. So that's how I feel. Just don't sign up your child for it.
Yeah.
It's wild.
We'll see. We'll see what the Supreme Court will tell us. Story time, will it be non-examined? What are you going to do? Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. If you're just joining us, we were just wrapping up our conversation about a case in Maryland where it's possibly going to go to the Supreme Court, where parents want to opt their children out, but essentially it's coming across as banning time with books that have LGBTQ characters in them. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Again, we don't have to all agree. See, I was quite the contrarian to this conversation. You don't have to agree with us, but share your thoughts in the comments. The only thing I ask is that you be respectful because we do not moderate adults here. Okay? We don't moderate adults. No, we don't do that. Just be cool. Okay. Going into more problematic things, because listen, that is just the world that we live in right now. Okay? We are going to get into a particular publisher who is publishing works by two particular authors, both of which happen to be super problematic right now. So the first one I'm going to get into is author Sophie Lark. Now, this book cover that I have up on screen is for the Sparrow and Vine. It was supposed to be the first book in a series. The information that was available online before it was removed is that Sparrow and Vine series. This is the first in a brand new arranged marriage series about a woman who has to marry a man from a rival family in order for them to secure their portion of an inheritance. Now, full disclosure, you cannot find this book on Amazon anymore. You cannot find it on any Goodreads, NetGalley, anywhere, anything. This was pulled before the author and the publisher and everybody involved pulled everything down about this book. Now you might be wondering, well, hey, what is wrong with said book? Well, let's get into it. So we're going to credit the well-read nurse on Threads. This is from Threads, right? Yes. Who did a little highlight from a section in the book. And I quote, it says, highlight yellow location 839. And I quote, but shouldn't there be a crew of people with questionable work visas picking these grapes for us? Okay, that is one line of a larger, more problematic thing. Ellie, this author is alluding to immigrants who are not here legally. They should be the people picking what things. I mean, we live in a very fraught time where, things like this is extra, super, super sensitive. So clearly there would be a lot of backlash surrounding that. The author then goes on to put out a statement. I'm going to read the statement for you all, especially if you are listening or you just can't read the text on screen. So author Sophie Lark in a statement from Instagram says, I want to start by saying how much I appreciate this community. Your passion, support, and willingness to engage in meaningful conversations have always meant the world to me. That's why it's so important for me to address something I got wrong. It has been brought to my attention that certain lines in Sparrow and Vine were hurtful. Reading your messages and hearing your perspective over the past 24 hours has been humbling, and I want to acknowledge the pain my words have caused. I'm truly sorry. My intention was to craft and demonstrate a flawed main character, but instead I wrote dialogue that read as attacking to a community I care about very much. During the editing process, Bloom, and now I'm going off course, Bloom is the publisher, if you're not familiar, guys. Bloom recommended removing these lines, and I made the wrong choice in keeping them. I now understand that impact matters more than intent, and I regret that my words caused harm. Please don't blame Bloom for my mistakes. I wrote this back in the summer of 2024, and a lot has changed in the world since then, particularly in regards to the fate of immigrants worldwide and certain public figures. Some things I would write differently now, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Words mean nothing without action, so I'm pausing this book and this series for some rewrites to ensure that my work doesn't contribute to harm. I will also be listening more closely to our sensitivity readers and taking additional steps to educate myself on responsible storytelling. And to those who took the time to share their feedback, thank you. To those I have had, I am very sorry. I hope I can earn your trust again in the future. I know that was a lengthy statement, but that was from the author Sophie Lark. It can be found on Instagram. That was just basically a screenshot. What are your thoughts on this statement? I'm just going to say real quick because I want to hear what you all have to say. The fact that she said the world changed from 2024, when she originally wrote, now we're in, I just finished 2 months in 2020.
No,
like not much has changed this.
No.
Go on.
No, just people came out of the woodwork and just said that quiet thing out loud. So yes, it was, the issue was always there. The statement was always hurting the people that you're actually serving. It's not just, doesn't matter your immigrant status. It's just like we're in a place where there's high sensitivity, and this rhetoric was going on last year in the campaign trail. So this is not brand new. The fact that she's trying to spare Bloom from all hurt, it's still, Bloom still put art on NetGalley for our readers to read it. So probably they still have responsibility. If they chose not to, Bloom could choose, like, this is not ready to go, and basically says, we're not posting this until some serious re-editing will take place. So yeah, no. I think both parties are to blame. I think it's not just one or the other. I think both are incredibly problematic. And I think it's platforming someone who has established a brand of morally gray. And so this is a way to be morally gray. It's a cop-out.
What are your thoughts, Fran?
Yeah. Well, besides the things that we just talked about, which, I mean, facts, but also the fact that she wrote that she was trying to write this flawed main character. And there are certain things that a character cannot come back from. So, like, that cannot be a cop-out for, how she wants to write her story. The summer of 2024 thing is just wild to me that you would even write that. And the other thing about trying to spare Bloom is the fact that you're actually telling us that you rolled over them and, like, they just said, yeah, whatever, we'll just do anything you want. Like, that's not making them look good either. Because that means that they're just going to put out anything just because a big name author tells them this is how I want it. So, like, that doesn't make them look good either in the sense of how she was trying to, like, save them. So I don't know. And also, I should point out that Bloom has not made a public statement. They just shared Sophie's statement, but they haven't actually made a statement themselves, which I think is also very bad.
I can agree with you all more. I mean, I think it's very bad. My brain is mentally stuck at, you were writing this in 2024. Yeah. If you told me you wrote this in 2019, even then I'd still be looking at it. But it could be like grace, because a lot of people learned a lot of things during the panorama. However, all right, I think I love a balanced conversation. So I'm going to take a opposite view for a quick second. Listen, people, I don't agree with any of this. But for purposes of balance, because I do believe in balance. I don't
Yes.
like echo chambers. I really don't. All right. For the purposes of balance, how should an author, and this is in all seriousness, how should an author approach what she was saying she was trying to do? She was trying to create a flawed character. Because here's the thing. I'm in here in my lovely little office space, aka library, aka guest overflow room in one of the at some point when my house is full. When I step out the door, I step outside to the real world. And in the real world, you do have problematic people. You have people with good intentions who might say the wrong thing. You have people who are just downright problematic, and you're like, stay far away. With that in mind, how do we approach that in literature? Because again, we can't have books where everyone is doing the right thing and saying the
Yeah.
right thing all the time. You know, because I don't
Agreed.
subscribe to that.
Agreed.
How can we write flawed characters? Maybe someone who is racist, maybe someone who is, what is that word for people who doesn't like gay people? You know what I mean? Doesn't like anyone really from a different faith. Like, how can we approach this in a responsible way? Because I also think it's irresponsible to not include, depending on the book you're writing, obviously, but problematic people in real life are a real thing. So I think authors should be able to write that in literature. How do we approach
Absolutely. I actually believe that too. I don't think that everything should be perfect. I think there should be some problematic things in what we're reading anyway, because like we got to learn from something. If we're just seeing everything perfect, there's nothing to learn from. So I would say a couple of things. First of all, the genre matters. So when we're talking about romance, and even in romance, what is the role of that character? I think that matters. So there are certain things, and I mean, I do read some questionable, morally gray heroes that may kill people. Fine. But
Unalivers. I'm like all about the unaliver, the Luigi Mangione kind of.
yes, I mean,
those were very damn. That's
but
my moral.
and I think there's also something to be said for the fact that everybody has different lines that cannot be crossed. So that also goes back to a very personal thing from the reader's perspective. For me, there are certain things that you cannot justify and make that like the main character. If you want to put that in the story and put that as a side character, that's fine. And there might be some other kind of subjects where you have to make that character realize or learn from what they've done, maybe at the beginning of the book or throughout some point. And then there's got to be, somebody's got to call it out, and there's got to be a learning experience from it. At least if you want to maintain them as the lead. But again, what that is, like, is it killing somebody? Is it racism? Like, to me, that's probably a very gray area, because everybody will have different lines. Like, where is your particular line? Like, what's the thing where you're like, well, I can't engage with that? And yeah, I mean, I think that there's got to be, it also depends on marketing. It depends on so many things. Like, you cannot go out here putting this hero there, which, I mean, people did mention the fact that nobody called this, like, it's not something that the hero's learning from. It's just, this is just how he is. And it maintains throughout the whole book. I can't say for sure because I haven't read the book. I did not. I don't really read Sophie Lark. But I think if you're going to make it the hero of a romance story, there's got to be some redemption to some tougher subjects. Because even the killers, there's always a little redemption moment or like something that makes them more like human.
Right.
I think there should be a purpose behind, like, everything should have a purpose of like why you're saying this way, and like whether, and there's a counteract, like there's like a little antidote to it. It's not just for the sake of doing this. It's like, it's just going to show you morally flawed. Okay, but how are you going to learn from it? What's the character arc? How are you going to grow from this issue? It's just the problem with romance, and this is something we have to be mindful. RWA for a long time was a really racist organization, which is the governing board for romance writers of America. And for multiple years, as recent as 2020, 2019, books about white supremacy won awards. And so this is just another, like, it's just another place where it's like, okay, we have to do better. What we know now, is there a purpose to have this kind of rhetoric in our romance reader? Like, is this something that's gonna, like, with no conflict or with no one actually calling out of it? Or can we actually, we're in 2025, we have an opportunity to have more critical voices to explain why this is not acceptable anymore. But then again, we're 2025, where people are coming out of the woodwork and coming out being overtly racist.
Listen, I always will forever say this. I'd rather know who you are than guessing who you are. You know? So, hello. But anyways, if you're just joining us, welcome. Let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. We are talking about Sophie Lark, an author who had the book Sparrow and Vine set to be released. It's now been pulled from everywhere. So the listing for it on sale on Amazon is no longer there. It's not on any NetGalley, Goodreads, just any platform where readers are reading early advanced copies. It has been pulled. Sophie also put out a statement apologizing to readers, specifically about some of her very problematic lines, like this one, which I have a screen grab from the well-read nurse on Thread. So thank you, the well-read nurse, for flagging that and having the receipts, because again, like I said, there's no trace of the book available online. I do want to note that the author did say it's being pulled. They're going to be, she's going to rewrite certain parts, and then I'm sure the book will see the light of day at that point. The author is also saying the publisher told her these things were problematic, but she chose to go along with it. So those are just high level, some of the points. But if you're just joining us in the chat, just go back, hit rewind and catch up. Replay crew, we'd love to hear from you as well. So if you're watching the replay of this after the live, share your thoughts in the comments. We have one more author who's kind of in the same train from the same publisher. So see, now when I say something like this, I'm wondering, like, is there a trend? What is going on? So this book in question, so the author is Celeste, and the book in question is Past the Broken Bridge. Now, someone left a comment. Let me see. Well, first of all, we had this thread of comments from Mel C. Bell _author. Why is this being marketed as a romance? Author Celeste said that's what the publisher markets it as. Mel C. Bell author came back saying, but you know it isn't a romance. I mean, you are not a new author. Now, all of this is coming in reference to, we have another screen grab as well. This one is from author Celeste, kind of highlighting some of the lighter things to note. First, of course, the release date, because we have books to sell. It's a neighbors to lovers romance, as well as a forced proximity romance. It's based in Louisiana. In brackets, there's LSU, and has a lot of funny, cute, quirky moments there, and she goes into some other stuff as well. I know, Francesca, you for sure have some thoughts on this one. I mean, what is going on with these authors?
I mean, this is like tale as old as time. There's authors that write a women's fiction story. I have not read Celeste ever, so I cannot say that like she writes good stories or not. But let's just say she writes good stories. But you wrote a women's fiction novel. Just own that. It's a valid genre. You can probably do well selling a women's fiction novel and just market it as such. I don't understand why this continues to happen, where authors want to pass a women's fiction novel as a romance. It just does not work. There are rules to a romance, and we're always questioning these rules, and I don't understand why we have to question these rules. It's like every genre. There are rules to every genre. Why are we here?
So to spoil, this romance is not a romance. It's a love story of some sort. It does have an ending that you may not like if you have read romance as a reader. Romance are supposed to end in a happy ending or happy for now. Couples should be together, should be alive. All the different rules regulations that romance actually has. It's genre rules. It's what we're looking for. This book does not have a happy ending or happy for now. Therefore, it is not a romance.
Right.
But just like we market Nicholas Sparks romance, it is not.
Right. Perfect example.
Shade.
No, if you read Nicholas Sparks, this is the kind of book like that.
It's like that.
It's like that.
Okay.
But it's just the same thing.
Okay, so me being contrarian again. Okay, for balanced conversation here. We have noticed this trend where there are women's fiction books being marketed as romance, specifically contemporary romance, to be specific. So contemporary romance books that are really women's fiction. I mean, some of the faves out there, I think their books fit more women's fiction because you have all these other little things which, in my opinion, makes a character dynamic. But at the end of the day, it's women's fiction. It's
Right.
not romance. Does a romance have problems along the road to the happily ever after or the happy for now? Sure. But these things are really deep, I feel, and get into more relationships.
Mhm.
How do you correlate between those romance books, which do end in a happily ever after? So forget this one for a minute, but the ones who end in happily ever after or happily ever after for now, but they do feel more women's fiction-y. Like, how do you differentiate? I know, Francesca, you spend a lot of time on tropes and, getting to the nitty-gritty of a genre. What is your take on those kinds of books?
So for me, I've always considered those books as women's fiction because, like you said, when I pick up it's all about readers' expectations. Like for me, genre definitions and where you market a book has to be about the expectation for us as a reader to pick up a book. So if I'm picking up a romance, it's because I want a certain structure to the story and obviously a guaranteed kind of ending because that's the definition. And with the ones that are very popular right now, and they are really women's fiction. If I want to pick that up, it's because I'm in the mood for going on that journey with the character. And if I'm a romance reader and I want something else, that's not what I would be expecting. So I think genres matter and how we market them matters because of the expectations. However, I have less of a problem with those going into romance instead of women's fiction because the ending at least is there. So even though you're meandering around in all these different relationships, maybe friendships, maybe family, maybe some personal struggle, but at the end of the day, you're still getting that satisfactory resolution at the end for the main couple. So it bothers me less, but it still bothers me because I'm a stickler for just put it where it needs to go so that I know what to pick up. And when I'm in the mood for that, I will pick one of those books up.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of like what's the forefront storyline. Is it character growth? Is it growth for the heroine to grow and to find herself and find yourself? Or is the love story the central plot line? Is it the relationship that she has with the hero, heroine, whatever it is they have, and they have together? Is it a relationship or is it not? Is it just character growth? And it depends on the mood and the feeling. I personally like women's fiction. I enjoy the character growth because I'm not in romantic relationships. I like to have other opportunities to understand other relationships, like friendships, characters, like family relationships, and all these different things. But when I'm looking for a romance, I expect both characters to be alive and to be together at some point. And even if they're not together at some point, I expect them to be alive and please do not kill them off in the last chapter because I, as a reader, need to grieve the loss of the character. I need to feel the grief and I need to understand how the other characters experience that grief with me. So I have issues when they kill off characters and they have to be killed, not in the last chapter. I have issues with that.
Yeah, it's a wild ride for sure. And I think to the author's point as well, that's the function of the publisher.
Yes.
But then he posted that it's a friends to lovers and quirky romance. I'm like, girl, this is not when I have to grieve, when I have to feel sadness, when I have to have tears, it is not a quirky, funny romance.
No.
Nothing happened.
Also, on your point about killing off a character at the very end of the book, to me, that is it's a cop-out of like really developing your story because it's like, oh, I want to add some shock value and I want to make people cry and I'm just going to kill it. Let's write a better story then, because that is just an easy way to say, I'm going to make this a sad story. I'm going to kill him at the end. No, girl, no.
There's certain books that I'm so mad at the way they kill, and even just like a kill, the way you kill the character says something about you.
Yeah.
Don't make them freeze to death in some terror. It's like, do not do that.
Oh my gosh.
I still have strong opinion on that book. I am not. I'll put it in the show notes. I think it's Laura something, Eleanor something. I don't remember the name because I just wanted to. But she basically puts the character freeze to death in a New York terrorist.
Oh my God.
The end.
Hooray for the Titanic.
Yeah. Too much. But if you're just joining us, welcome. Okay. We are talking about a series of authors who've had quite a few snafus in the publishing industry. They do have something related, though, the same publisher. So definitely hit the rewind. We talk about Sophie Lark, Sparrow and Vine, and then we got into B Celeste, Past the Broken Bridges. So definitely hit rewind and check that out. Let us know in the chat, what are you reading? What are you doing? What is happening in your life? We'd love to hear from you. Replay crew, we'd love to hear from you as well. Again, if you're just joining us, we covered quite a few things. I mean, we talked about book to screen adaptations at the Oscars, you know, the ones that they won. There were quite a few that were snubbed, quite honestly. That was definitely a whole thing. We also talked about a Maryland case possibly heading to the Supreme Court tied to book bans. Again, just hit the replay button to catch up on that. And like I said, the Sophie Lark situation has statement and, of course, author B Celeste. We're going to hop off of here and hop on to Substack. So if you haven't joined us on Substack, please do so now. There is a link in the video's description. If you find one of our Substacks, you'll find us all. Or if you're already on Substack, just go straight to Substack, find Under the Covers book blog, What to Read Next, and I'm at Biblio Lifestyle. And we look forward to chatting with you over on Substack. We're going to be sharing what we have been watching and what we are reading lately. So again, we'd love to hear from you and we hope to see you over on Substack. Bye, everyone. Bye.